really pleased now to get the thoughts of Andreas Morawietz, who's the Global Head of eSIM and Solutions Portfolio at G&D. Andreas, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for making the time. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here.
So lots to talk about. Pablo was just suggesting, and I don't know whether you were able to hear this, but, almost on the cusp of a real surge in eSIMs. Is that how you see it? Just on the cusp of huge changes and growth?
Yeah, I think the eSIM industry has always been a very interesting industry since the beginning. And so therefore, Pablo was talking about kind of how eSIM actually was or is currently already available at MNOs globally. We see these massive currently trends going towards China. We see this really great news on eSIM only devices. So I think what we have seen in the consumer's case and the consumer arena, I'm confident that actually will be possible to replicate it in any of these IoT market segments. And of course, it will be a different speed, how the different market segments in IoT will adopt it. But when we take a look back very briefly, and we have heard that in a few sessions before, why actually these eSIM, why I'm so confident and why eSIM actually delivers a lot of values. And we have seen that in consumer. At the beginning, there was a lot of buzzwords, a lot of questions, a lot of kind of concerns. How can we actually bring it to market? And there were some major pain points, and that is something what I same thing see in IoT. The pain point in the consumer case was at the beginning for an OEM. I wanted to have more space. I want to use the volume in a device, which actually is now consumed by any SIM tray for any other services, any other devices, any other features like a bigger battery. So which immediately impact the standby time of the device. So then eSIM was integrated, eSIM as a hardware component. And linked with these kind of component, we going into this capability to remotely manage the SIM with all these profiles and what we have discussed and have seen and heard in all these sessions before. But one of the key success factor is not the technology. In my perspective, the big success, what we have seen in consumer was the way how the industry, how standards like GSMA have defined and focused on the user journey, on the device journey. Services like entitlement service, discovery service, all these services focus on make it simple, make it easy, remove the technology questions to a different level for consumers.
Well, look, I tell you what. You've mentioned so much there, Andreas. Let's pick them apart and go through them one by one because, let's start with the consumer and the device market. And I think it sounds like you're almost suggesting that there's had to be a little bit of education there for the consumer to get them to understand what they could gain by going in this direction.
Definitely. So I would say we spoke a lot in a long time, kind of, do we need to educate the consumer? And I would say the statement I always made, don't try to convince a consumer about a technology. Convince him how easy it is. And take an example on travel market. Everyone, and when I talk to my kids, the young generation, for them, they don't understand what eSIM is all about. They don't care about it. They just like it. They love it. When they prepare a trip to Asia, they book a hotel, they book the flight, and they book that kind of connectivity. And that is great. That's an app. That's how it should be. And that is actually what is the best education in the consumer case. If we can do that for IoT, it would be great to do that.
I think that's amazing, what the example that you've just given. Yeah, you book the accommodation, you book the flight or the travel, and then you book your connectivity. You imagine that just a generation ago. It's a very, very different mindset, isn't it? So let's then talk about the enterprise market. Now, Pablo was suggesting that, when it comes to automotive, that's an industry that has embraced eSIM. So let's look now at where the next big trend could be. He was suggesting utilities, and logistics. What do you think? And where are you already? Where is G&D already in either of those two markets?
Great example. I think I fully agree with what Pablo said. The logistic or track and trace is one of these typical markets where we have moving parts, where we have products going around the globe. And actually, G&D is not only providing eSIMs, we're also producing tracking devices. And I brought one with me just to show you what we're talking about. So this is a kind of a track and trace device, which is self-contained. It has a solar panel. It kind of recharged itself. This is normally mounted on top of some of kind of containers going around the globe. And the typical use case here is that these devices, they stay on the market for 10, 15 years. So they don't come back actually to any inventory or checkpoints. So there is a massive need as well to manage connectivity. And eSIM management, in this case, we speak a technology, SGP32, but at the end of the day, eSIM management exactly allows to, for example, if the container goes across ocean, to provide and manage a satellite connectivity. If it would stay for a few weeks, months in the Brazilian area, download a local connectivity, and all by a central service. I think that is great, and that solves a lot of use cases and a lot of questions in the industry.
So what you've just showed us, that hardware there, the eSIM within it, it will choose its own connectivity as to where it is.
It can be configured exactly in the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would say let's make two areas. The one is that you do the configuration from the backend, so you know where this container is going towards. So proactively, predictive. You can also, in preparation of the trip, load a connectivity. But then, as you said, the device itself has some intelligence in it to detect, for example, if I'm in Brazil as a device. And then I can switch over to the already pre-provisioned connectivity for the Brazilian market. And when it leaves Brazil and goes over to another region, detect it and kind of maybe ask the backend system, what should I do now? Do you have a logic for me? Do you have some intelligence what I should act with?
And you said that something like that could last for 10 years. I mean, presumably also, just out of interest, it has a battery that can be recharged with it, because not all containers will be in the sun all the time for the solar panel to work. But it's on a 10-year cycle that you would then have to go back and update or change or something, which, for things like remote monitoring, that's really going to increase efficiencies.
Oh, definitely. I think in this specific use case, as you said, there is a battery in it. And even if, for example, containers are kind of stacked together and it would see no sun for some time, these kind of devices are able to send data for the next 6 to 7 months before they really need sun, of course, in a much more battery-saving mode. But this is really where I would say industries gain immediately value, because even if it sounds like a bold statement, but to know where your device is a big step forward. But because all of a sudden you have the capability to work with your asset more proactively, you can do a much better planning for your logistic processes. And this is what connectivity brings in. And eSIM management is more or less allowing as a tool to optimize the connectivity and to be a part of what IoT industry is doing today. They send new firmware if needed. They get data from application. The door is being opened as an example, or temperature within the container, such kind of data. And the third one is now they have the capability to proactively manage connectivity.
I think it's really interesting because it fits into so many other industries that are now looking for that very definite and secure way to do track and trace when they have to show their own supply lines to an end consumer or end customer. But the other area that was mentioned was utilities. And when I think of utilities, I tend to think of more static arrangements, but in remote areas that up until, I guess, fairly recently, you would have had to have sent someone to. So, I mean, are you seeing that as a huge area of growth, or just something that might just tick along for you?
I would say that it's definitely a very market segment. We're having a POCs currently ongoing, commercial implementation, which will be next year or maybe in 2 years later in the market. The interesting aspect here is, of course, the value chains, the different players we have in an IoT ecosystem. But maybe let me share one concrete example, because we speak a lot about 32 and utilities and what kind of use cases is. Recently, it is now public, so therefore I can speak about that one. So we work from G&D side with Amazon. And Amazon have a device range, what they call Eero devices. So Eero devices actually are devices which deliver connectivity today already to tens of millions of homes and enterprises with their Wi-Fi or power over Ethernet access points. And what they have done, because the connectivity and this always on need is a massive need. So think about a connected point of sale. If there is something happening, this is immediately a loss of revenue. So what Amazon has done with the technology, what we provided to them, is integrating a device, what is called Eero Signal. And Signal is a kind of companion device which will immediately detect if there's an outage and switch over to cellular connectivity. So the device, the point of sale, does not even know that it is now running on a cellular connectivity instead of the one which had an outage. This is a really cool use case which highlight that eSIM management is somehow a hidden champion in some of these devices to enable a lot of really values for use cases.
Andreas, what's on your horizon? Because you're giving some great examples in different industries, but if you're looking to the future, where next for you? What is possible that you would really like to see happen that maybe hasn't already yet, or really come to fruition yet?
If you would, what my wish would be, and my I would not say advice, but actually what I see for the companies being successfully stepping into the arena is they are not afraid. And there's a lot of buzzwords going back and a lot of discussion how complicated it is, and then the EIM, and is that working? Go in it. Do it. It is not so complicated. It's not really a rocket science to kind of integrate eSIM management into your use case and understand what values it is. Yes, there will be some questions. There will be some technical hurdles, but I'm really a strong believer that when I take a look to all these POCs and all the activities we are doing, the ones which go into, the ones which the companies understanding what connectivity and connectivity management in their ownership will bring them as benefits, these are the ones which are really, first of all, will be the ones which gain massive market share relatively soon, but they also gain a lot of reduction of total cost of ownership, and they are in a position to design much smoother, easier, customer-friendly use cases for their market segment.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you talk about value and the potential for new use cases, new markets. I mean, do you see the advantage mainly as being driving efficiency? Or are you also seeing new potential revenue streams as well? The people who come to you, the partnerships that you have, is it mainly efficiency driven? That's the goals that they need and they want, or sustainability driven? Or is it new revenue?
I would say it's both. It's both. It's really depending. It's really depending on the use case. Maybe one other example, because it's much easier to talk about actually what we are doing and what we're seeing. And you will speak later to I think Luke from the Millwall Football Club. We are working with kind of 5G private network companies, and they are building in sports arenas, in some event arenas. They are building based on eSIM management the capability to deliver premium content to visitors, to customers, to fans. And eSIM is in this case, it's a tool on the one side. Yes, it definitely add more revenue. it increased loyalty. But we also, for example, are working in a scenario where we have, they call it nomadic private networks. So it's a company here in Germany kind of building kind of containers if there's a disaster happened and everything from the normal cellular connectivity is gone. They span the private network. And the question was, how can we onboard all these rescue workers with their potentially even private devices onto this private network? And eSIM was the solution. So in this case, it is not really revenue. It is doing something good for, in this case, society, for this use case, to enable that people can do their job in such kind of disaster cases. So it is always not one or the other. I think it's, in my mind, the world is never black and white.
Andreas, you are a true eSIM evangelist. It's clear. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
It was a pleasure for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.